You're listening to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, a podcast for those who are in and around the hospitality industry who love, live, and breathe what they do. You can join us for candid and unscripted conversations with hospitality experts and founders as we go deeper into their personal stories while they're sharing their triumphs and trials that got them to where they are today. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and you're listening to an episode of Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. Now, let's begin. All right, Slick Talkers, we are back and we have a repeat guest, but he brought a friend. He brought a co-founder and partner, Ben Hoffman, Ryan Killeen. How are we doing, my guys? Long time no see, Ryan. Ben, welcome to the show for the first time. And of course, any listeners that recognize Ryan from his first episode, welcome back.
Thank you. Pumped.
I wait for Ben to speak first because I'm usually better at talking than I am listening. So thanks for having us on again.
Of course. Hey, that's a good skill to learn there, Ryan. I trust me. I'm learning that skill more often than not. Great to have you guys on the show, and thanks for reaching out via email. Ryan, you and I stayed in contact, obviously, since our first time, getting to connect. You and I got to even hang out for a couple hours at the Operto office in Vancouver, and it's always great to stay in touch with guests on the show. But this is a special episode in the sense of you guys are expanding the Annex brand from Vancouver, Canada into the States. And obviously that's what we're here to talk about. So for the listeners, link in the show notes from Ryan's first episode, go back, learn about the Annex, learn about his journey. But then I would say, Ryan, let's start with you. Can you give us a high level overview, 30 to 60 seconds? All right, Slick Talkers, so sorry to interrupt, but obviously you know what to expect when you listen to an episode. And that's for us to give an amazing shout out to our amazing partners. And one of those amazing partners is Minute. We've been with Minute for a while, and we use them in all of our vacation homes and recreation vacation rentals. So every home gets a noise sensor. And the reason why we do this is because, one, it's 100% privacy safe. And with the whole Airbnb banning indoor cameras, which again, if any of you used them, shame on you, don't have indoor cameras, get Minute, replace that, have it be privacy safe, where it only measures decibel levels. And that's super important because you're not recording conversations and eavesdropping on your guests. You're just measuring noise. And that's going to be so helpful for you and your team, because then you're going to be able to decide when parties are happening based on decimal levels and alerts from Minute. On top of occupancy, you could tell how many cell phones are connected to the Wi-Fi, all these other things that are happening inside the home that really prove a case for parties. And maybe even when your home's unoccupied, when things go wrong, someone breaks in, something happens, right? You'll be able to have the proof and the knowledge of understanding what's happening inside of your property without actually being creepy and weird by spying on your guests and your team. So get with Minutes, grab the link in the show notes, make sure you grab the special offer. And if you have more than 10 homes, guess what? Reach out to them. They're going to take great care of you. Let them know that Will from Slick Talk sent you, and they're going to have you all set up. So thank you, Minute, for sponsoring this episode and for this show. We love your partnership. And of course, like always, we're back to the episode.
Absolutely. High level overview. I have a background in hospitality, grew up in the industry. I've done everything from housekeeping to building tech stacks. I've worked for the likes of Flatbook that then became Sonder and Airbnb. Current project in Baby in partnership with two of my partners is the Annex Hotel. We have a operating business and hotel that's been there for 5 years now, or just over 5 years. And we've just gone under contract on a deal in Palm Springs and are looking to bring our brand and show on the road.
I love it. And how did you and Ben get connected? Ben, I would love to know, how did Ryan and your spheres cross?
Early Flatbook days. We actually met at the first all hand. What did they call it then, Ryan? When we did like the offsite meetings in Montreal.
The all hands, debauchery, whatever, something like that.
Yeah, Ryan was wearing like a 3-piece suit. I think you were vested up. I remember drinking coffee, and we were early Flatbook Sonder guys. We both left around the same time, and then just circled back. Ryan reached out. We kept in touch, and he was like, "Hey, there's an opportunity with the Annex. We can restructure this thing and really blow it up." And here we are.
I love it. I love that, how just one meeting, a 3-piece suit, can stick in your brain and now turn into a great partnership. So good job on you, Ryan. I'm curious, can you guys maybe, Ryan, this might make more sense for you to explain. Can you explain the restructure just a little bit for anyone that does go back, hear the Annex story and hear your story? I would love to know kind of what's changed from COVID to where we are today.
Absolutely. So business is a hard thing, as many of your listeners will know, and as all of us know intimately. And sometimes things need to be shaken up to get the best chance of succeeding. So a couple of years ago, as a result of just economic realities and whatnot, an opportunity presented itself to acquire the brand in its entirety. And the first guy I reached out to was Ben. We had a great working relationship at Sonder, and obviously we're trying to work on some things after that as well. And that allowed us to kind of remove any distraction that was in place and take a run at this thing uninterrupted. And how our business is structured is two-part. There's the property company side and the brand company side. So Annex falls under brand company. Ben and I have a parent company called Perfectville Hotel Group. There's a small group of partners there. Annex is our flagship brand, and that's what we're actively working on growing. So the restructuring there was bringing in a couple new partners, and just kind of a clear direction forward for the brand as a whole.
That's perfect. Well said and well explained. All right, gents. So now you're bringing the Annex brand into the United States with this beautiful, listeners, I'm telling you, if we have permission to put a glimpse on the screen for the video version, we're going to do it. But I highly recommend it. If we do have it on there, go check it out, because this place just is awesome, what you guys are doing. So Ben, let's talk about the deal real quick for the Annex expanding to Palm Springs, and also why Palm Springs. Why do those numbers make sense for you guys?
I've been working with the Annex, even, before the restructuring, is kind of when Ryan and I really reconnected, because they've been wanting to grow the Annex for a while, and figuring out what the right path forward was tough. I mean, I had in my mind, I had seen a lot of the STR guys moving into the boutique hotel space and master leasing small boutique hotels and doing that lease arbitrage game on the boutique hotel game. So initially I thought that was maybe the way to go, because the IRRs on those deals is insane. It's like you show people like an 80% plus IRR, they're like, this is a fake deal. It doesn't do this well. It looks great on paper. They're very hard to convince owners to do, and they're very hard to keep going if the market moves at all. So we pursued a number of master lease option deals, a couple in New York. We looked in Miami. We looked in Chicago. We looked in LA. And we probably spent 6 to 8 months trying to go down the master lease game, because that was where we came from. We came from Sonder. Mm-hmm. We came from doing these big master lease deals. That was my specialty at Sonder, was doing scale, was bringing 50 unit deals at a time, and making those work. And so that was really what we were pursuing. And we just couldn't get the numbers to work, or we couldn't get owners to agree at the prices we needed them to. And we quickly realized we needed to go the more traditional route and just start finding properties to buy and convert into an Annex. Same markets, tapped the same thing, looked in New York. New York's really tough, just with pricing, union labor, everything else. Miami, same story. Pricing expectations is crazy. I mean, even with operators failing, like the Kayak Hotel, went back to the lender. We looked at buying that one. Even with a short sale situation, we couldn't get the economics to a point where it made sense for us. We really realized we had to identify value add opportunities, because buying something that had existing cash flow is going to be priced too high for us to be able to come in, put the Annex branding veneer on it to make it fit our brand, and be excited about it. So Palm Springs, actually Ryan found Palm Springs. He was down there, visiting with his family, poking around on LoopNet. And any real estate investor will tell you, do not buy deals on LoopNet. If they're that publicized, it's going to be overpriced. You're competing with a bunch of people. Don't do it. But we took a look at it, and we were intrigued. And upon further digging, realized that the properties being marketed as 45 keys. But if you look at the floor plans, it's very easily segregated into 65 keys, just by closing doors, without moving any mechanical, electrical, or plumbing, which is key. So that right there gave the project a huge boost. And looking at the initial underwriting, Ryan and I, we're not rehab experts, but we kind of guessed and talked to our designers, where do we think this is going to fall on a CapEx range, put those numbers together, and on first blush, the numbers were better than anything else we'd seen. It was an asset that wasn't currently operating. It was inherited by the family, had been a timeshare property, had gone through a bunch of iterations, but just wasn't really performing, which is exactly what we needed. Our initial CapEx budget was $5 million. We bumped it way up to $9 million just to stress test it, to see if it would still perform well. And it does. So today where we're at on that deal is it's penciling on a 28% IRR, which I think is very conservative. In the hotel space, you really got to be above a 20% IRR to get equity investors excited. So even at 28%, I almost want to pad it a little bit more just so it looks more realistic. But those numbers are easily achievable, I think, on the deal. And kudos to Ryan for finding it because it's a sick deal.
Seriously, good find. Diamond in the rough, it sounds. And I'm curious to go back a little bit. You talked about the mass release piece, right? Like you guys came from that Sonder world, right? And growing at scale. And even if you were to acquire a place like the Kayak Hotel in Miami and all these other things, the numbers never worked out. And I want to know, like, obviously we're not seeing Sonder thrive right now, right? Like they're not thriving. We've seen Front Desk, all these other big multifamily hotel slash SGR type inventory companies go out. So one, I would love your guys' take on why do you think this is? Is it due to the financial backing through venture capital? Do you think it's market adjustments and shifts and guests want more, but they don't want to pay for it? Like where are we missing the dots on some of this stuff?
I'm happy to to jump in on this one. I mean, I got asked a question earlier this week, and which was, where is the future of hospitality going? And it was more of a tech related question, but the future of hospitality is hospitality, and that sounds cliche. All of the companies you just mentioned started off with partnership models, taking on basement suites, then progressing into single family homes, and ultimately ended up leasing for the most part um, large amounts of inventory in the multifamily asset class. That only works for a period of time until it doesn't. And you've started to see those brands that you've mentioned try and move over to the boutique hotel space. And it's a completely different business model. I think that the short term rental industry lacks brand experience and hospitality, much despite what a lot of operators in the STR space are going to say. And I think hotels lack the operational efficiencies of a short term rental operator. And there really hasn't been a perfect blend of that. And sure, you're going to have a bunch of listeners who say, yeah, they have. Look at this brand and look at that brand. As long as you've got a kitchen in your unit, you're not a traditional hotel. You are a short term rental play. And there's definitely a market for that, but it's existed for a long period of time, pre digitization. So I think you're starting to see the reality shakeout of what a hotel is intended to be and what a short term rental is intended to be. Short term rentals, in my experience, have thrived in vacation markets and destinations where you're able to create that hospitable experience and have people come back. It's a one of one. Where it's failed is on a mass lease arbitrage deployment play. And subsequently, moving over to the hotel space isn't as easy as just doing that. It takes years to build a brand, and there is no shortcut. It's not a matter of just throwing up a website and having a logo. It goes far beyond that. It's intentional. It's actually creating what an experience feels like and looks like and being able to replicate that. And it requires a significant amount of CapEx to convert a property into a branded asset. So that's my 2 cents as to how accurate that is. Again, it's only an opinion, but I think that based on what I've experienced being an operator and owner working for the likes of Sonder and Airbnb, it's coming from a bit of an ultimate generalist standpoint.
I think too, like this is a conversation we always had when we were at Sonder. Was like, Sonder kept trying to add brand standards and do these great things, but at the end of the day, I think most people pick a short-term rental in major markets. Like if you're going to a New York tier one market, New York, Miami, Chicago, LA, Dallas. If you're looking at booking options, you're picking an STR to save money. Either you want more space for less money. That's it. If everyone could afford a sick hotel, they would. So once STRs start trying to price equal to hotels or above, you're losing because these hotels are going to win on experience every time, and they're going to have better F&B options, better hospitality. And I think the STR boom was kind of a child of free money for interest rates were low, VCs were pouring money into these prop tech companies. Sonder is not a tech company; it's a real estate management company. But they were acting like they were a tech company. We had teams of engineers building software that you could have bought off the rack for a fraction of the price, and done it way more efficiently. And I think a lot of these guys are just solving problems that don't exist. To be frank, it's just like trying to build a business off something that seems seems like a good idea, but the margins are razor thin. And the second the market moves 10% against you, your profit's gone. And now you're on the hook for these major lease payments that you have to walk away from.
I love how you guys say it how it is. It's refreshing. I appreciate both of your responses. It's like,
Well,
okay, yes,
we've lived it. We've been
yeah,
through it with everybody. We've seen it. We've been on the front lines of it. And that's why we're here working on the Annex project, because this is something that we both really believe in, because we're kind of taking the learnings, the best of both worlds, bringing what we've learned in both worlds and combining them into this product.
I love it. And so recently, actually, just as a like Monday prior of this recording, so this will be a couple weeks before this comes out, but in the sense of Brandy Canale on our morning show, she was kind of talking about like her opinion and thought is, you know, we are seeing this blur, hybrid, apart hotel, whatever we want to call this type of, unit and operation type. It's no longer like hotel versus short-term rentals. And in her sense, it's more of a what type of service level are you expecting? Because if like you're just wanting to get a door code and get in, then like cool, that's all you need. And that can be like a version of hospitality, but that's most likely a short-term rental play. If you're wanting like hotel, I guess what her point was like the word and term hotel is kind of blending and changing more due to the level of service at each property. So I think would love to know from the Annex point of view, you guys are trying to marry this perfect mirage of tech and service. So what does that look like, especially for this, Palm Springs deal? I think what are you guys going to do outside of the brand part? Because we all know if the listeners that go, remember the first episode with Ryan, I think you guys will know that the Annex brand in itself is amazing. So like the brand speaks for itself there, but what part with technology and operations are you guys really marrying to get that perfect blend of service and tech that is sustainable?
Artists living comfortably. That's kind of the slogan we're leaning into. And what I mean by that is tech is a big part of what we do, and we were probably more tech forward out of the gate in terms of the verbiage we use, tech enabled. But at the end of the day, we're a hospitality provider, and that's what's really important, is being intentional in everything we do, from programming, food and beverage, the in-room experience, how it's sold online, how guests interact, how you message them. And we are leaning into the hospitality aspect of what we do more than ever. And I think that's become really clear over the last 12 to 18 months. We are utilizing technology more than we ever have as well, but that's our back end efficiencies. That's what allows us to achieve our OPEX margins and make it make sense from an investment standpoint. It's not something that we need to heavily advertise. Once you've experienced the Annex in person, it's clear that there's technology being utilized, but there's still people on site. It's not a here's your code and hope your stay goes well. It's here's your code because we don't want you to line up at a front desk, go enjoy your curated room. It's text us through your cell phone because that's what you already have in your hand and you don't need a hotel phone to make this work. It's applicable to everything we do. So continuing to explore technology, it's kind of like medicine. I call it the practice of tech or the practice of medicine, where it's the ever moving goalposts. And we try and be as current as we can with the times. We have a lot of tech providers who we've been working with since day one that continue to get better and better. And to Ben's point earlier, like building proprietary tech off the shelves is a separate game. We're starting to see meaningful VC capital be deployed into the hospitality software space, and the tech is getting better and better. The new race is the consolidation to a singular platform. So I think it's going to be, what is your version of hospitality, plus how are you using tech on the back end? And for us, we're spending a lot of time, effort, energy, and money on with hospitality, the intentions there, and delivering brand promise, and a lot of time, energy, money, effort on the tech as well. But that's for our team and behind the scenes. That should never be passed on to the guest as a learning curve.
All right, Slick Talkers, sorry to interrupt. Halfway through the episode, you're making it through. Thank you so much for tuning in. And Hostfully has been a partner and sponsor of this podcast since the very, very early days of 2020. That's going on almost over 4 years. We're so thankful for their partnership. We use them for our vacation homes. Obviously, it's so important to have a hub. Everything that you need to know about your property, from reservations and calendar management to then, of course, how do you manage your connections with your other suppliers like Minute or Wheelhouse or whatever technology you use behind the scenes. Hostfully has the hub for you in order to make sure that you're managing your properties with ease and, of course, within one platform. Not only do they have great connectivity partnerships with other vendors in the industry, they have great distribution partnerships. So channels like Airbnb, Booking.com, Vrbo, you name it, they're connected. Homes and Villas by Marriott, pretty cool channel. You can't go wrong with their connection and distribution hub, but also, let's be honest, we're always on the go, and having the Hostfully mobile app to manage our vacation homes and any kind of emergency communications or extra pieces that we need to know is super crucial. So grab the link in the show notes, make sure that you connect with Hostfully today, and they'll take great care of you. Will from Slick Talk had sent you. Let them know you're going to get a special offer as well in the link in the show notes. Now, like always, we're back to the episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you to Hostfully for sponsoring this episode and for the podcast in general. We love your partnership. Thank you guys so much. And now back to the episode. No, it's well said. And Ryan, I know you and I are big fans of Richard and Muse and the whole team over there. Just incredible people, incredible product, getting to really deploy. So for the Annex point, you're talking about the service level with brand and technology. So there are people on site. Is there a physical front desk, or is this more of a concierge walking around with an iPad? Like, give me the vision.
Ben thought he was going to have to back out of the deal after he showed up and there was no front desk. We're definitely like, we're not anti-hotel, we're not anti-STR. We work with great people on both sides of the equation. We're just trying to create a product that doesn't exist in the market. We don't have a front desk because it's not necessary. We have someone on site 24/7, but when you walk in, you're immersing yourself in a lobby that's activated. There's programming happening, whether it's a run club, nightcap, which is a chess event we do. There's live music.
That's awesome.
But it's obvious on our team who's working there, right? Like they're decked out in the Annex kind of merch and things like that, and they're going to be hospitable. They're going to approach you. It's not reactive hospitality; it's proactive.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of times our guys will notice a guest walking into the lobby and immediately just go right up to them and, do you need help checking in? Did you get your door code? Do you know where to go? That kind of thing. It's very very actionable. On the Palm Springs deal, there is a front desk currently, and I think we're still trying to decide if we keep that or eliminate it, because nothing Ryan and I laugh about more is when we're like doing other hotel tours and we see this like line of 8 people waiting to check in at the front desk, and we're like, it's just it's so goofy. There's just no reason for it. Like it's an exhausting waste of time from a traveler's perspective. You just want to go chill in your room and just decompress, not have this be in another line after the airport. So it's kind of in flux. I mean, I love what the Annex did. The front desk is basically a coffee shop or something like that. There's really no front desk. It's just, there's people there you can talk to if you need help, or if you know what you're doing, just go onto your room.
Yeah. My favorite part, with seeing what you guys are looking at doing with the Palm Springs place is, I can go to my room, drop everything off, go to the bar, go to the pool, immediately have no worries of, like you said, that line, and just queuing up. Even if it was a kiosk to get my key, I would still be like, come on, like, just give me a code. That's all we need. It's not that hard.
Kiosks are brutal. We saw it at the public hotel in New York. A lot of hotels are employing the kiosk, but it's like self checkout at a hotel. I'm gonna try to steal something at a grocery. It's like, come on, man, don't make me do your job.
Yeah, your 10-cent grocery bag that they tried to charge you for, like 0 bags. Yeah. No, I love it. And so, okay, I want to go back to this deal because obviously you guys are raising capital for this. There is some great numbers. So Ben, maybe this might be good for you, but let's walk through this really quick. Give me the kind of like what made this deal make sense.
Yeah, so the deal was listed for $9 million. We were negotiating with the sellers on a couple points. Price was obviously important, but it wasn't the most important. Another important factor was seller financing, especially in today's market. Just hotel debt not only is it expensive, it's just hard to get, period. Most banks are just terrified to do anything right now. Everyone's kind of got the wait and see attitude. So after probably a month or two back and forth, we landed at $8 million purchase price of the existing hotel, which is advertised as 45 keys. We got the sellers to agree to carry back $5 million of seller financing at 5% for 5 years. So a 5% rate on a hospitality project is pretty much unheard of. I mean, 5% rate on anything today is unheard of.
Seriously.
That's like the SOFR rate almost. And so that's what we got under contract right now. We're still trying to decide if we utilize the seller financing. I'm giving a lot of inside ball here on this deal, so your listeners are getting a real sneak peek behind the curtain. We're
I
trying
love
to
this.
we're trying to decide if we utilize the seller financing because they didn't want to subordinate. Basically, what that means is if they would subordinate, we could have gotten a first mortgage for the construction and everything else, and then raised equity to kind of finish out the capital stack. They would have sat behind the first mortgage. They didn't want to do that. They want to be in first position, which I understand. I would too if I was them. So that's kind of leading us to decide, do we go get a mezz loan at like some high interest rate, 14, 15%, and the blended rate makes sense because we're at 5 on that. And then we got the mezz, but that's a lot of things that you have to close. You got to close the mezz piece, you got to close the seller financing and the equity. So we're trying to figure all that out, but all in it's basically a $20 million deal. We're looking at $9 million of CapEx. I think we can do it for less than that, but just being conservative, that's where we're coming in at. So we got the 9 plus the 8, 17 million. There's some soft costs in there that's bringing that up. And then we're utilizing some historic tax credits as well. I think we're eligible for about 1.4 million of historical tax credits just because the buildings were built in the 40s, I believe. We got some really cool postcards in our OM that we dug up that show the hotels back in the 60s and as the classic Route 66 like motor inn hotels. So that's kind of what the capital is looking like. We're raising 6.2 million of equity. We're putting in 10% of that as the GP, and raising the additional. And it's like I said, it's penciling like a 28% IRR right now. That can always change, obviously, as things come up. But I think we've built in a lot of padding on that capex number. We're confident. Yeah, those are the numbers: 6.2 million of equity, 12 million of debt, 20 million all in with the soft cost numbers.
I love it. And for all the listeners, I think we made a joke. I made a joke with a previous guest on another episode about like, congratulations on your first build. You went over budget. Like that's kind of like the staple of any hotelier or, person that's building out a portfolio. Yeah. Like they gave it cushion and then they still go over budget. And it's like, yep, that's why you put cushion, because you're expected to go over budget either way. Right. Like I think it's kind of a stamp of,
Yeah, exactly. Especially with adaptive reuse projects. You're going in, you don't know what you're going to find when you start tearing out drywall
yeah.
we're actually being proactive or trying to meet with the city of Palm Springs and show the planning directors what we're looking at doing because it's technically a cosmetic improvement. We're not moving an MEP, ideally. So we want to make sure that everything that we're doing is not going to trigger the city saying, oh, well, because you're doing all this and you're spending all this money, you're going to have to rewire the building or put in new HVAC or whatever. So we're being proactive. We're going to meet with the city, show them the plans, get them on board with it, and make sure that we're accounting for all the costs that will likely be triggered to try to avoid some of those unpleasant surprises.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so obviously I want to be a part of this deal. Selfishly, I'm like hearing these numbers. I'm like, I wish I had $1 million to give you right now. So any listeners tuning in, if you have $1 million that you want to invest, let me know, because I also want to join you on that. But with my very small contributions. But I think it's super interesting to find such a unique deal, to find a place with such good history, to be able to carry the Annex brand that you've already built and have like established basically an audience, right? Like you have repeat guests, you've had guests that come in, you have emails, you have the ability to drive traffic from day one. And also, like, I think you can tell a really cool story. So let's talk people. Let's say you get the full funding. What's the, I guess, next steps after that?
Once we get the full funding, I mean, we close on the project and we just start renovations immediately. We're budgeting, I think we're looking at 8-9 months of construction time, which would put us, depends on when we close, but that would probably put us into next summer, which would be a slow start. Palm Springs summer, no one wants to be there except the Germans. Try to turn their skin into leather. So like 100 degrees until probably September. But one other thing that we didn't touch on was the Coachella component, DC. Ryan, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, being intentional and quite literally artists living comfortably, we're fortunate to have Daniel Caesar involved as an equity partner in our business. And we've taken the approach of not doing a celebrity endorsement. And that was it at Daniel's request. Like Daniel is a highly cerebral individual and has a lot of interest in curation and design and all of those things. So for him, it's a humble little abode, if you want to call it that, that happens to be really close to a great music festival. So when we talk about crazy opening parties and things of that nature, it's not aspirational. I mean, we've done it to some extent in Toronto. we had a great night at the hotel. He had a concert there at the Scotiabank Arena. It was incredible. We did dinner beforehand, took cars to the show, watched, did the after party, and brought back some of the concert to the hotel. We had a lot more people there than I think we've ever had, and we won't get specific with numbers there. Always happy
Yeah.
to share, but some things are kept better as secrets. And we can do that in California. It's a great market that lends itself well to that. So Palm Springs has always had great product for things like Coachella. Typically, it means that hotel rooms are more expensive and
Yeah.
people go down there, and that's what creates the energy. We're looking to kind of replicate that year round, where it's not about how much the rooms cost. It's more about like what's the experience that you're paying to have. And I think that's a huge piece of Daniel is the curation and the lens that we have built Annex through. It's like that's part of our secret formula is people will pay more money than market ADRs as a result of an intentional product, and that goes back to brand.
And I think to that point, Ryan, we're not just like saying, oh yeah, like our brand's going to drive above market ADRs because we're so cool, right? Like we know
Yeah,
people
yeah.
are price sensitive. A line that Ryan always says that I love is that we bring people up from budget and down from luxury because we really thread the needle at the Annex of our branding and where we are. We're not overpriced product. Like when you go to Palm Springs, it's a really interesting market. It's either you're staying somewhere sick and it's like $1,000 a night, or you're staying at a shitty hotel for like $200 a night and you're not having a great time. And I think we're kind of coming right in the middle. We're pro formaing, I believe, a 330 ADR annualized at 60% occupancy, which is just based on a star report we pulled from the comp set. You're getting a lot for that 330. You're getting a whole really sick vibe hotel that doesn't really exist there. There's really this gap in the middle there. There's either really nice properties like the Raison, the bungalows. Those are 1,200 a night all day, beautiful property, or you're like staying in like a travel lodge. Like there's a few. Obviously, there's the Ace, there's the Kimpton, there's the Drift, all beautiful hotels. Those are all like within our price range, but I think the Annex offers something special and very different from those hotels, much more authentic and unique. It's artists living comfortably is really the mantra.
Order a pair of Bather swim shorts poolside with a spicy marg. So that's kind of that's getting specific. I know that's right in your wheelhouse. Well,
100%. If anyone's seen the video version, you're gonna see my face light up like a Christmas tree over here. No, I love that, and you have a bunch of ideas going through my head, and I just think it's so cool because I think that's the thing I've seen that hotels struggled with the most is activations, right? Like not just, okay, yeah, cool, Coachella, like that's a great activation that you can build off of, right? Because it's a main event, tons of traffic coming to the city. But having your own ability to use the space, like you have the real estate, why not have fun with it and make it exciting Monday through Sunday? Like it doesn't need to be a weekend or a Friday only. Obviously, depending on the certain situation with markets, but at the end of the day, you can make it really cool, even for locals. And I'm kind of curious. One, I'm a big F1 fan, big Gold Rush Rally fan. So any potential kind of like race active motorsport activation in the future at the Annex? Because if so, I'm coming and we're doing a live broadcast there. I'm going to pretend to be Will Buxton from F1 reporting and start, doing all that stuff. But anyways, any potential of that in the future? I'll write a check right now if you say yes.
yes, yes. You're speaking to the right guys. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
everything we do is curation. We're fortunate to have a really incredible team. I'll refer to him as our branding guy for lack of a better explanation. And he's so much more than that. Max Saunders in Toronto has done an incredible job of forming partnerships that started at the hotel and expand beyond that. And I mentioned it in Toronto. It's a city-centric offering. It's like run clubs and chess club, but give us our moment in the sun quite literally in Palm Springs. And you're thinking like, we do the Melbourne take on golf, what the hotel world needs there. You're thinking like rallies through the desert. I think like the hotel cars are vintage Mercs from a local dealership. Like there's a lot of really fun things that you can do there. The partnerships that we aspire to have. I mean, there's some great businesses emerging there. Palm Springs Surf Club. Like you really lean into what's already there and do the Annex take on it. I mean, Ben gets excited here. Ben was supposed to be a photographer, so Ben sees this in a very specific way.
Yeah, I actually sent the guys. We have a group chat, and I sent the guys like a 911 Dakar rally version. I was like, we need one of these for like daily transport to the airport or something. Like
Yes.
Annex rally races and through the desert, shit like that.
Yeah.
We might even buy a vintage car just for hotel guests to take for a ride once in a while. Like we love doing shit like that. So leaning into that vibe is what we're all about.
I was going to tell you guys, when I was a hotel front desk agent in Spokane, Washington, we had the Gold Rush rally come through. So Lambos, 911s, all these crazy Bugattis and everything you could think of. Super fun experience. Not as fun at the front desk when they're like, hey, we need dry cleaning. This is like Versace and it can't get like, you can't do anything bad to it. And you're like, oh, well, what do we do? And then you need it by like 5 a.m. So like you had that experience. It was so cool and the cars were amazing. And so I would say I would love to connect you guys with the Gold Rush Rally team. They're super fun to work with. Get them to come through on the Palm Springs when you guys are open.
Love
But no, this is like super cool, just experience wise. I think, you really can think outside of the box. And I think a lot of us get so used to hotels being a box. I'm curious, just really quickly to kind of wrap up the episode potentially, is Palm Springs went through a lot of noise ordinance issues, specifically with short-term rentals and permitting and banning and yeah, all this other stuff. So obviously you guys are going to have a hotel license. Any thoughts around like playing that, mid, like not mid, but that hybrid version of operations, right? Like you're not going to have like these crazy parties, but you're having activations. So what's the kind of like thought around the local kind of regulations and policies there, if that even affects you at all?
It's a good question. I think you always have to be mindful of it as a responsible operator. Any asset you go look at, the best way to understand how they're operating is speak to the neighbors. We've had to be mindful of that in Toronto. We are operating in a residential neighborhood, and some things work better than others. With Palm Springs, I think there's leniency within doing things well. We're not creating noise for the sake of it. It's integrated into the community, ensuring that everything we do is within the box, maybe at the very edge of it, but being respectful of the circumstances. And again, just the way that we build out things, sound attenuation, things of that nature, like all being done with the utmost care. And again, when we say activation, that doesn't always mean the 250 person raw loud music like
Yeah.
craziness. It can also mean a very chill, laid back movie night or something super intentional, painting night. Like there's so many specific examples that we could give, dominoes, etc. So activation to us means more than party. It means intention and programming that exists outside of late night hours. It could be a coffee club. It's a lot of different things.
But I think to that question, Will, I think those short-term rental ordinances only help us, right? Because they're taking out competing hospitality stock, and we're running a boutique hotel. We're not running a short-term rental. And I think most of those noise complaints come from neighbors pissed off that their neighbors are running a short-term rental. They want to be quiet and enjoy their house. They don't want people partying next door. We're in a block where we have space around us, and we're a hotel property. So I think it only helps us, if anything.
Yeah, I figured it wouldn't affect you guys, but it's one of those big topics, especially from the listener's point of view. I'm sure they, remember that period of time when Palm Springs was just going crazy. So
I mean, we're excited about Palm Springs too because it is like the boutique hotel market, right? Like it's
100%.
You don't go plop an A-loft in Palm Springs. You want to be something cool and sexy. So if we really want to go there and plant our flag and be like, this is what we do, this is how we do it. I think if we can excel there, it's a great proving grounds for us to test our brand.
I love it. Well, to wrap up the episode, where do you want to leave the listeners with, or what do you want to leave the listeners with? Wow, that was a tongue twister there. But I would love to make sure you guys obviously get the full capacity of this audience and of this whole show, because I think what you guys are doing is important. And for the listeners, I want to give my full endorsement for this, because when I did see the deal, Ben, I think you gave us permission to put a link in the show notes for people to look at the deck. I honestly think it's worth, if you are an individual or a group, this is definitely worth looking at, and want to give you guys the opportunity to shine a light on it.
No, I really appreciate that, Will. Really appreciate the time and letting us chat with you and your audience about it. It's been awesome. I mean, yeah, just thankful. Thank you.
Yeah, I think adding on to Ben's point there, thankful to anyone who wants to listen about what we're up to. I think that, to your point, Will, there's a lot of people who are so definitive on one side of the line. It's your STR or your hotel. That's not how we roll. Yes, we operate in the hotel space, but we're just trying to bring a brand to life and beyond Toronto that we know people will like and have liked for the last 5 years. The data speaks for itself. So if you're interested and enjoyed anything you heard today, we're always happy to set up calls and chat. So we'll link all the contact info below, and as well as the OM.
Awesome. Well, Slick Talkers, you heard it here first. So grab the links in the show notes. Make sure you like and subscribe. All things Annex Hotel. Get a part of this deal if you can. If not, give them all the love and support. Any tips, tricks, if you're in the market, whatever, go ahead. Just flood them with some love, because obviously you guys are friends of the pod and we want you guys to benefit from this as well. So thank you both, gentlemen, for sharing a lot of insight. We've got a lot of inside baseball, and of course, a little geek out on some hospitality and brand activation stuff. So I appreciate you both taking the time. And then, of course, Slick Talkers, you know what to do. Next week, we'll see you again. And of course, make sure you follow all things Slick Talk on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to our show partners for making Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, possible. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we would love to connect with you outside of the podcast. So you can follow us on all of our social media channels for daily hospitality content, or find us on slicktalkthepodcast.com. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and we will see you guys all again next week.